All you rookies that are just coming on as slot contenders, I want y'all to breathe in this beautiful vista. Breathe it in deeply. Because after y'all get baptized, you're never going to be able to look out into the wilds and see that pure beauty again. There's only one thing you're going to be able to see, and that's fuel. So think about that. Meditate on it. Then decide if this job is for you.
That is a scene from a new movie out this week in theaters about the work of some of the nation's elite firefighters. Only the Brave has an all-star cast. Actor Josh Brolin plays the leader of the Granite Mountain Hotshots. 19 men from that group lost their lives fighting a wildfire northwest of Phoenix, Arizona 4 years ago. Josh Brolin joins us tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
nice to see you again.
Just had that report about the latest out of the firefighting and the wildfires in Napa. Mm-hmm. And you see that out there, and this movie hits at this time. It's amazing to see what these men do on the front lines.
It is, you know, and it's a funny thing. It's you know, you think it's full of hypocrisy when Hollywood does a movie about these types of guys and they're trying to profit from it and all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting that getting into the training of this and having been ensconced in the firefighting community, I was a volunteer firefighter in my early 20s, so I've known these guys for 30 years. I have a lot of friends that actually, one guy who's an incident commander now who helped out in Houston and Dallas, and he came after the premiere of the movie. I flew him in for the premiere of the movie. And now he's back in NorCal helping out and really making a difference there. But you know, you get involved with these guys and you realize you have to kind of strip down all ego and all vanity and all the stuff that kind of comes with being an actor in order to kind of live the spirit of these guys, you know. And we were fortunate enough to be around former Granite Mountain Hotshots, and Jeff Bridges plays Chief Steinbrink, who was there with us also. So I'm sitting there all balled up and nervous about being the proper leader, you know. But after a couple of weeks of hiking and bloody feet and all that, I think that we were accepted by those guys, that we were willing to give 1,000%. You
play Eric Marsh, the leader of that group, and who died in fighting the wildfire. I've seen the movie. It's very emotional for anybody who sees it. You all showed the families.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was interesting because when I saw it, I've seen it 4 times, and when I decided that I was going to do this press thing, I kind of hardened myself for the press thing because I was so emotional during shooting, just because of the nature of who these guys are, not the fact that all 19 died. But when I saw the movie, I was so emotional by the end of it, and the first thought that I had is every family has to see this movie by themselves, not as a congregation, not as all the families hanging out in one theater, and why did my son get more attention than why did my son get less attention, but really to process their own feelings about what had happened, and they made that happen. And the families have been very supportive of us. They felt that we weren't trying to necessarily, send a message or anything like that, that it was just really reliving the spirit of who these guys were and being honest about it, and flawed. The families and all that, we don't just focus on the act of firefighting. We focus on the fact that it's tough to live this kind of heightened lifestyle and then go back to your wife or your husband who's been living kind of a mellower, domesticated lifestyle, and have it be an easy reintegration into that, So we explore those flaws and those realities.
It's similar, and we as a country have changed the way that we look at military men and women who serve and come back.
Absolutely.
Similar to that phenomena, and honoring this courage is something we haven't done as a country.
No, and I think it's very important because when we were just at the Redskins game together, and we were down there honoring 5 firefighters and first responders, paramedic. One woman was a paramedic, and one person had been shot 3 times and saving somebody else. What happened in Las Vegas, and the first responders going toward the hotel, making sure that everybody was safe out there. It's about common people doing very uncommon things. It's about you and I in a situation, and are we running away from it? Videotaping ourselves, or are we actually out to help our fellow man? And that's always there to be praised, whether it's military or first responders or firefighters or your common man.
Yeah. You mentioned Hollywood at the beginning there, and obviously Hollywood hasn't had the best stretch as of late with Harvey Weinstein and other things. Is there a sense that this type of movie kind of hits home a little bit better? The honoring the courage, the patriotism, that it really gets to where the American people are?
Yeah, the courage and patriotism. There's a fine line between the two. People who are in power and who abuse that power, I think, deserve all the consequence that they get, no matter where you are in the political spectrum. But when you're talking about honoring courageous people, period, I thought it was a very interesting moment yesterday, and not taking away from the people who actually stood up and started clapping for those honored yesterday, but only half of the stadium stood up, and I thought that was a very interesting thing, because it was just a moment. It was a commercial moment that we all experienced, and yet my feeling was I couldn't have been more sensitive and proud to have these, again, common people doing incredibly courageous things, and they deserve all the accolades that they're getting. But it's a moment. It's like there's fads, and then there's just the reality of a human moment. And I was happy to be there, celebrating that very, very human moment.
Tell me about transforming into this character and what you all had to do to kind of learn how they work.
Well, I mean, look, selfishly, I was 240 pounds, so I had done a role where I'd gotten big. I'd gotten kind of, lard big, bear big, and I had to lose. I know. I'm not talking bad about anybody. I don't know if there's any bears around here.
Talking about me. Okay.
You and I are stocky, but that's all right. Stocky. But I had to lose 50 pounds, and I was in total fear, because I knew I was going to have to be the leader of these 25 to 35-year-old guys. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull it off or not. I put myself through hell. I got there, which gave me the leverage to be able to push them really hard. And we spent 2 weeks with these former Granite Mountain hotshots and Chief Dwayne Steinbrink, hiking probably between 6 and 8 miles a day with 50-pound packs. I made sure that they were 50 pounds and that nobody was restuffing them with foam and all that. And 25-pound saws, and between 8,000 and 10,000 feet, the hikes. And there were a lot of bloody boots. There was some complaining, but not a lot. But by the time we got to the end of that, I think that we all had an equal amount of respect for what these guys do, and all that kind of ego and vanity had been stripped away. And
then the awe of...
They earned it, is my point.
They earned it, yeah. The awe of Mother Nature when you see these flames.
God, forget it.
And how much they engulf in just seconds.
Seconds. They describe it in the movie as a freight train, and it is that. When they would do these emergency deployments, when they would do these, the tests and all that, and I would have the guys, when I was training with them, they could be on a major pitch with rocks all around, and I'd have them deploy. And that's the thing, is it's such an unnatural, these things aren't made to withstand, 2,800 degrees. They're made to withstand 500 degrees, and, being near heat, but not on heat, and with these guys, what they dealt with is a total burn over. And, just the reality of that is unfathomable to you and I.
Yeah. And we're dealing with it.
We're dealing with it right now. We have 40 people that have died. We have, 55 homes in California alone. And by the way, Brazil, and there's fires everywhere. When I was in Vancouver, I was just doing Deadpool 2 in Vancouver, and Vancouver had been socked in with smoke for 10 days. You almost couldn't breathe, and that's because of all the fires that were going around in BC and the States that all socked that smoke down into there. Look, man, it's a reality that if we didn't have these people that we're honoring and praising, especially in this movie, but outside of this movie also, you'd have a world of ashes, and that's just the reality. So thank God for these people.
Only the Brave,
yes.
Out October 20th. It's a great movie. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me in.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, man.